Tip today in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tip Today. 1800 938 007, our free phone number if you want to give us a call. And Leanne is producing. Coming up on the show today, we'll be going live to a Tipperary man living in Abu Dhabi in just a few moments' time. Edel Carey, a wheelchair user from Roscrea, travelled to Dublin over the weekend for a protest. Deputy Alan Kelly will speak to us after 10 o'clock. Former US Airforce pilot Bernie Goldbach gives us his perspective on the US-Israeli attacks on Iran and, of course, the fallout from that. I'll be chatting to Cathy O'Donovan, who is retiring from St Anne's in Roscrea after 47 years of service. All of that and much, much more on the way we'll be doing our Dear Phil slot as well. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email Tip today at tipfm.com. Quick look at the front pages, and as you can imagine, it's all about what's been happening in the Middle East. The Irish Independent, their lead story, the big wave is yet to come in the war with Iran. US President Donald Trump warned as concerns mounted over a prolonged conflict that could spread through the Middle East. And the Irish Times, turmoil spreads across the Gulf amid fears of a protracted war is their headline there. They're also telling us that the number of Dubliners using bicycles on an almost daily basis has increased by 50% in just 2 years. That's according to the National Transport Authority. The Irish Daily Mail, thousands of Irish citizens register for help in the Middle East. Thousands of Irish citizens have registered with the government as being stranded in the Middle East in order to be prioritised for future evacuations. And finally, a look at the Irish Examiner, and their main headline is conflict spreads across the Middle East, and the front page is dominated by a photograph of smoke from a strike in Tehran yesterday, and again, very ominous looking, and it looks like something from a movie. Also, Liz, reading on the Examiner today that new taser guns provided to the Gardaí have yet to be discharged nearly 3 months into a new pilot project. And while tasers have been drawn as a de-escalation tool 4 times since mid-December, Gardaí and the Minister for Justice, Jim O'Callaghan, confirmed that they have yet to be used. So that's a look at what's making headlines today. Do you want to make comment on any of that? And if you do, 083 311 3311. Now, Irish authorities are considering busing citizens stranded in the United Arab Emirates to Oman before flying them home if flights from Dubai and Abu Dhabi remain heavily restricted because of the Iran conflict. I'm glad to be joined now by Stephen O'Brien from Edel Carey, who has been teaching in Abu Dhabi for a number of years. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning, Fran.
And really good to talk to you today. And how are you? And what's the atmosphere like there in Abu Dhabi, Stephen?
It's actually pretty calm, Fran, all things considered. Like, everyone's being very cautious at the moment. We're advised to be indoors because of still there's missiles coming in daily, like. But the first 24 hours were definitely the worst of the hits. Saturday, when we got a notification on my phone just following the Sky News that the war had started between Iran and Israel, when I was actually in the city when I saw that notification, and then I'd say it was only an hour later when I landed back. I live in a villa there. There's actually 8 of us living in it.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting around the sitting room, and then we heard the first interception, missile being intercepted. I said it was me and my 2 housemates were just sitting down in the sitting room, and you could hear the door started shaking and the windows just a loud bang, like something you never experienced before. And the waves, they kept coming then for the first 24 hours, but it seems to have eased a lot now since. Definitely has eased a lot since. You still get emergency alerts. The government there's an application here that the government, that you have to download for the government. It's called the Ministry of Interior application. And emergency alerts come in then roughly a couple of minutes before the missile comes from Iran and is intercepted. So you're actually expecting the missile to be intercepted before it's intercepted, if that makes sense.
And can you actually see the interception in the sky, Stephen?
Where I live now, it wouldn't be too far from the US, the Al Dafra base. It's about 25 minutes away. I live in Khalifa City, so it actually, the missiles were coming in straight overhead the villa. You could actually see them in the sky.
Wow.
I didn't see any being intercepted now. On Saturday, you could see the missiles very clearly, but then Sunday and Monday, you could hear them being intercepted, but it was hard to see them.
As I said in the introduction, Stephen, you've been teaching there for a number of years. What's the story with school and the like? I mean, has everything shut down for the moment?
School is online now. So I had to teach 3 lessons online yesterday and the same today, just 3 lessons for 30 minutes. I let the kids log in, and it's nearly more important for the kids to have their own social interaction between themselves for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just as important as the content you're teaching them at the moment. But we were supposed to have school up until March 13th, but that's cancelled now. We'll say I only have to teach lessons online tomorrow, and then there's no school Thursday or Friday or any of next week.
And what about the young people that you're teaching, Stephen? What are you hearing from them, or are they speaking about this?
Well, see, like, it does feel very safe here at the moment. Like, it's not actually really affecting us. I know now the falling debris might affect, like, obviously why we're getting the alerts is that the falling debris might affect us. But I think the kids are generally feeling safe enough. They're at home, they're with their families.
Yeah.
The government are keeping in touch with us regularly. Like, it still feels very safe here and kind of controlled in a kind of a weird way, you know.
I was speaking to a man from Dubai yesterday. He's involved in an investment company out there. But he was of the opinion that we're playing it up too much on this side of the world, and we're sort of making it bigger than it is in the Gulf states. What do you make of that comment, Stephen?
Yeah, I do agree with him. Like, as citizens or civilians living here in Abu Dhabi, the strikes aren't targeted at us at all. I know we're hearing loud interceptions and we can see the missile strikes, but that in itself is definitely frightening for anyone living in Abu Dhabi. But there's definitely places in the world that are suffering a lot more than us now.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, I'm not sure if you could hear my introduction, having a look through the newspapers, but I mean, the headlines are amazing. You know, turmoil spreads across the Gulf amid fears of a protracted war. The Irish Daily Mail there with thousands of Irish citizens register for help in the Middle East, and they want to be prioritised for evacuation. That's the kind of tone of what we're reading in the newspapers. Is that over the top as far as you're concerned?
Well, looking at the news definitely doesn't make you feel any better here. It just, you kind of start thinking the worst. But see, I suppose why most people are frightened at the moment out here is because we don't really know what's to come or when we'll be able to go home. It's now you start thinking of your family and your friends and about going home a lot more, like in a situation like this. But at the moment, it definitely feels very safe here. People are being very cautious, staying indoors. When they get alerts that there's missiles coming, we're expecting a loud bang. That's about it. Like, there's shops are running normally, services are still open, you can still go to the gym. The government are well on top of things. Like, everyone feels very safe. So unless things get worse, at the moment, everyone just feels very safe.
Have you registered with the Irish government in the event that evacuation might be necessary, Stephen?
Yes, I did, Fran. We were all advised to do that. So I have that done.
Yeah,
which is important.
And your friends around you there and your housemates and the like. I guess is this the big topic of conversation all of the time now?
The first 24 hours, we were always just sitting around watching the news, waiting for what was to come, like, and how it was escalating. But since now, I've tried to stop looking at the news and Twitter and any social media applications, because there's an awful lot of lies on Twitter, and I know now I'm only on Twitter at the moment, but there's an awful lot of lies and misleading information on Twitter. So it's nearly better just to listen to government protocols and precautions, and they're being very proactive at the moment. So
and that idea that, you know, they might bus people to Oman from places like Abu Dhabi and Dubai and the like, what does that make any sense to you, that, you know, they might have chartered flights leaving from Oman?
Yeah, I know. There's flights starting to depart again now, so it would cross your mind about going home for a period of time with all this going on. Yeah, maybe people in Abu Dhabi might be thinking they could be better off. Be definitely safer at home with all this going on. But like airports here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they're massive stopover airports. You'd imagine they can't be closed for too much longer, because there's a lot of people stranded here too. You'd hear Irish people over on holidays and people like coming from Australia or Dublin that are just here for a layover and they can't finish their journey. Is very hard on them people too.
Yeah. If you could get back home, Stephen, would you at this point, do you think?
You definitely be thinking about it now. I know that's a lot of us here are thinking about it. Especially, you'd be afraid it might get worse. So with the Easter holidays coming up for me in March 13th, I would be thinking about going home, yeah.
Well, I can guarantee you get a great welcome in Anacarty anyway. that's for sure, Stephen. It was really, really good to talk to you today, Stephen, and do be safe out there, and thanks for making time for us this morning, Stephen.
Okay, friend. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye. And that's Anacarty man, Stephen O'Brien there, speaking to us from Abu Dhabi today. 1800 938 007. A listener on to say, good morning, friend. My daughter and her husband are living in Dubai. They just had their first baby boy on the 19th of February. Myself and my other daughter were supposed to travel on the 13th of March, but I'm not sure now will that happen. My daughter in Dubai is anxious as they watched the missiles overhead, and of course with a new baby it's not a great start for them. All we can do is hope and pray that they're all safe. I love the show, says Magella, who is an anxious mom as she describes herself. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
A group of Tipperary Irish Wheelchair Association members travelled to Dublin on Saturday to take part in a national disability protest against the budget cuts from Budget 26. Now, Edel Carey, a wheelchair user and Irish Wheelchair Association trainer from Roscrea, travelled to Dublin for the protest, and she joins me now. Edel, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran, and thank you for giving me some airtime this morning.
You're very welcome. Lovely to talk to you. I think mainly you're looking for that emergency disability payment. Is that at the core of what you're looking for, Edel?
That is at the core of the protest we had on Saturday. So we've had three core disability agencies come together: the Irish Wheelchair Association, the Disability Federation of Ireland and Access for All, to highlight the cuts that were made in Budget 26 to people with disabilities. So we held a national protest from the Garden of Remembrance to the Customs House, calling on the government to immediately introduce a €400 emergency disability payment.
And by your own calculations, Edel, you're about €1,400 worse off following the removal of some vital support payments, I suppose, in the budget.
That's right, Fran. There's a list of cuts that have made people less well off. This is for people living on a disability allowance. So the disability support grant of €400 was cut. The fuel allowance, when you take into account the lack of the once-off payments and the increase, people were actually at a loss of €160. The October double payments, a loss of €250, and the electricity credits, €250, made people, up to €1,400 less well off as a result of the budget, which is, it's just the latest in a list of cuts that have been made to people with disabilities over the years. And you've probably heard us talking before about the cuts to the mobility allowance, to the motorised transport grant, which were made in 2014. And just from my own personal experience, I'm somebody who's working, and I was, at the march representing people that are not able to get out and protest, due to their disability, due to their financial restraints, due to their lack of transport. In my own case, I availed of a motorised transport grant when I moved back from the UK in 1998. I live rurally. I'd lived in London, so it was a big transition. But without that grant, which got me on my feet, excuse the pun, because I roll mostly, but it got me, the means to get to work. It got me the means to get a car. These are the cuts that have been made over the years. And this one here is a very low blow in terms of people who are out of work, unable to work due to disability, finding it hard to heat their homes, to put food on the table. And we have been, accused of, using a derogatory slogan, heat or eat, which is the slogan of the campaign. But it is the reality for people living in a country, with such affluence, that there are people struggling to pay their heating bills, to put food on the table. There were people at the demonstration on Saturday who could not afford to fix boilers, or putting on their heat for an hour twice a day. And these are people that are living, with significant disability.
And Edel, what do you put it down to where the government is concerned? Because, as you say, we appear to be awash with money for all sorts of other stuff, and the waste of money out there is just unforgivable. And here you have, your members struggling.
I think there's two reasons. Firstly, it's a lack of awareness by our civil servants, our leaders, as to the reality of what people are living in terms of financial restraints. But also, historically, the voice of people with disabilities has not been heard in Ireland. Going back to, my young childhood, I was born with a visual impairment. I was educated in special education, so historically people with disabilities, they were not out there, not out being heard. And if anything, this campaign on Saturday is bringing people together. It's increasing the voice of people with disabilities. And if you think about it, in practical terms, people with disabilities, particularly significant disabilities, are often not able to get out and protest and not able to get their voice heard. So there's a few reasons, but lack of awareness from our leaders is not a good enough reason, to be addressing this issue, because they have done research. Like the Department of Social Protection did a whole research piece in 2021 around the additional costs of disability, where they actually consulted, with people. I actually took part in the survey myself in terms of additional costs that, that arise due to disability, be it transport, be it health costs. And then even the whole, the stats around people that are working, that have a disability. We're very poorly represented in the workforce. And, in terms of and sometimes, the EU average, sometimes
we forget, Edel, that, many people worked all of their lives and they contributed to the country, and they now might find themselves with a disability and living in poverty. And that's through no fault of their own, but their contribution right throughout their lives has been admirable,
Yes, absolutely. And, if we look at some stats that were, put together by the Disability Federation of Ireland, in terms of income and poverty. Like there's 2 in 5 people living with a disability who are at risk of poverty. 1 in 5 will live in consistent poverty, and 1 in 2, which is 44.3%, live in deprivation. So, that is a really alarming statistic that, in terms of the government having done the piece of research around additional cost, and then to turn around and promise an introduction of an additional cost of disability in 2027 and cut in 2026. It's really not good enough. It's really... it's striking a very low blow to our most vulnerable members in society.
What reaction did you get from the government to the protests? Did anybody listen to you? Did anybody respond, Edel?
We had some representation from other government parties on the day, and this Saturday was not our first encounter. This campaign has been running now for a few months, well, basically since the budget, and we were at Leinster House, before Christmas, and we were told no, basically. Micheál Martin dismissed it. It was voted against. So not the reaction that we were obviously that we deserve. And, in terms of fighting for our most vulnerable, most people there on Saturday were there to represent somebody who could not be there. And these are the people that, that are at the loss of this income.
Yeah, it's amazing that you have to go and fight and battle for this. But of course, we see it all the time. I mean, last week it was SNAs, it was special schools, special classes, and all of that, just not being looked after properly.
And again, anyone that's using an SNA, has a disability. It's another assault on the disability sector. I just have to reiterate the affluence of our country at the moment, and the bad turn against the disability community by our government. It is quite disgraceful, really. And I think it's something, and I think it's something the public are not aware of. Disability only affects people who have it. And I myself only acquired my physical disability as an adult. I would have had no clue around disability as a younger person. So, and part of my job is going into schools and doing disability awareness with transition year students and primary school children. And one of the things I say to them is, I would not have had a clue of what it was like to be a wheelchair user when I was in, at the age of TY. I don't think TY was called TY and when I was in school, but, I wouldn't have had an awareness. And disability it only affects people who experience it firsthand. So, the general public are not aware of this, this situation.
So where from here then, Edel? What else can you do?
Well, I think we need the support of our community to get involved in this campaign. We do have a link on the Irish Wheelchair Association website, www.iwa.ie, where people can go in and email their local representatives to highlight this issue again. We're getting great support from the opposition. So we need to keep the pressure on here. This is an emergency payment. This is not something that's needed next year. This is something that's needed now, if people can think of it in context, if your oil runs out and you're sitting at home in the cold, this is the reality, for some people that are living on disability allowance.
And with all that's happening in the Middle East now, the trouble is that the price of energy is going to be
exactly. It is not going to get easier. It's going to get harder, for people that are already living on, €244 a week. So
Edel,
that's the reality.
We will follow your story and we will do what we can to educate people, I suppose, on what it's like to be living with a disability. But thank you so much for coming on with us this morning, Edel. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran, and thank you for giving me the time.
Good morning to you. That's Edel Carey there, a wheelchair user herself and an Irish Wheelchair Association trainer from Roscrea.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938 007.
Now, welcome back to Tipp Today. Uncertainty trundles on in the Middle East this morning after Donald Trump had told CNN reporters that the big wave of a US attack on Iran is still yet to come. The US president laid out his objective, stating that he wanted to destroy Iran's missile capabilities, annihilate its navy, end its nuclear ambitions, and stop it arming militant groups. So let's get a perspective from a great friend of the show with a background in the US military. Delighted to be joined now by Bernie Goldbach. Good morning to you, Bernie.
Morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today, and thanks for coming in. Can I just begin by asking you, were you surprised at all at the attacks, considering we were hearing that talks with Iran was proving positive?
On one hand, no. On the other hand, yes. So, I mean, like the world's longest State of the Union address had no mention of Iran in it.
Yeah.
And then now America's kind of bombing them. And I'm not surprised by that because there's a irrational exuberance America has with laser-guided weaponry, precision strikes, ability to kidnap leaders, knowing where the security cadre of every leader is based on signals they're getting from electronics. It's like a lovely performative act to say America's here and you better be aware of that to be able to do this. So I'm not necessarily surprised because America's flexing its muscles in ways that may not be constitutional, might not be the best thing for world peace, but well, when you're bored of peace, with a board of peace, why not do it?
Sure, but is this Netanyahu's decision really to attack and America buying into that in some way? Is that the order of things, if you know what I mean?
Well, I haven't read the briefing documents about it, but to hear Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State and the Director of National Intelligence talk, he's suggesting that, hey, look, Israel was going to do this. We wanted to get ahead of that because if they'd done it, well, then our forces would have been struck. So we wanted to get in there in the first wave and do our bit. So, I mean, to flip that over, to suggest that America is only led by the Israelis is a big, I'm not sure, with America First being the banner that Trump and the boys ran on, that's the best perspective. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that the Israelis have probably the highest level of intelligence about what's in Iran and Iraq and the Middle East, but there are a lot of gaps there too, Fran, especially when it comes to sustaining a U.S. military campaign. Big gaps on the ground for human intelligence, for example. I worked in the Pentagon in a place called Checkmate, and we would game out all these things. I think there's some big pieces missing from the board of gaming this thing, big pieces.
So much of this I don't fully understand, but initially we were all talking about, the nuclear capabilities of Iran, and all of a sudden then the conversation switched to these ballistic missiles and that capability. What is that all about? I mean,
to hurt America, it would have to be intercontinental ballistic missiles, but Trump can't pronounce those syllables. So ballistic missiles alone won't hit another continent. The drones that Iran have, they're brilliant. I have so many of them ready to wreak havoc around the world. But
so they could be a threat to the States?
No, only if a sleeper cell brought about 80 of them into, say, the Washington metropolitan area and unleashed them on Dulles and Reagan Airport.
But obviously not directly from Iran, then.
No, and then the other thing, too, there's for an intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM to be effective, it has to have precision guidance, a whole array of either satellite or ground-based radar and analyze trajectories, and then it has to have a warhead on it. So, I mean, if you believe Trump, a few months ago, where he destroyed the nuclear capability for enriching uranium, and you believe his own intelligence estimates, which are that they're months away from precision electronics required to make the gyros and the sensors for an ICBM, well, then what do you got? So there's this thing called a Group of 8 in Washington that gets all these intelligence reviews. And both the Republicans and the Democrats have said, wait a minute, there's a lot of big gaps here. Like, one, in terms of the ordnance, they don't have the nukes. Number two, in terms of the guidance systems. Three, in terms of the ability to manufacture that kind of a missile. And four, in terms of the silos for them. Big gaps. And, the Republicans on the Gang of 8, and these are people that are highly ranked politicians, serving in intelligence functions, elected representatives of the Senate and the House of Representatives. They're saying, Big gaps missing. Now, the Republicans won't speak that, but the Democrats are saying, we're going to hold you to task here. So, I mean, this is like potentially an impeachable offense for like the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and worse. It could be a war crime, an international war crime, with a guy that's sharpening his skills, Jack Smith in the wings, saying, "Whoa, boys, just know that there is no pardon for this kind of thing that you've done." I mean, it's not a federal crime; it's an international crime.
It's absolutely incredible what is going on. Now, he's saying that, while there's much more to come, and maybe the heaviest to come, he's also talking about getting out of there within 4 to 5 weeks.
Friends, this is delusional. I mean, now I'm speaking from someone who would have looked at plans. Now, my part of the plan would have been the logistics part. Moving the munitions, moving the men and women, moving the special operatives. And, how's that going to happen? I mean, in the highest threat capability that America had with the stuff I used to manage and fly, a large aircraft coming in and unleashing about 50,000 pounds, 25 tons of stuff, tanks, munitions, special items on the land to where the ground-based troops could use the vehicles or use the munitions or use the meals ready to eat, the MREs. That capability doesn't exist. There's no way to resupply people on the move. When America invaded Iraq, there were months ahead of time of pre-positioning things in the sands of Kuwait. And, as the American mechanized forces moved north, they could just go to these RFID identified weapons caches, dig them out of the sand, and then they'd have the fuel or the munitions or the supplies for food that they needed. That's so far away. There's nothing pre-positioned in Iraq. So you can't do a ground war the typical way. I mean, this is like a Normandy invasion. It took over a year to finally get through their Reich and conquer it. You're not going to do a regime change just with performative airstrikes. You'll do a lot of damage.
You need boots on the ground.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's the way it happens.
Yeah, but was he comparing it to what happened in Venezuela?
Yeah, well, that's it. Easy win. Okay, we came in there, took the president. Now he's going to serve some time after the court case happens in Brooklyn. I mean, the Taoiseach can go by and visit him in his cell if he wants. And did it in Iraq. Iran got rid of the Ayatollah, but his underlings are still there, and maybe they're more crazy than the Ayatollah. Maybe the Ayatollah who ruled, I mean, it was a tough thing for the last 40 years. Iranians I knew in 1978, 79, what they've gone through in the last 4 decades is just terrible. But, there's nothing to suggest that people in the streets can suddenly become elected leaders. There's so many regions in that country. Yes. In a it's a... it's ruled by people in the religious orders, and some of them are more hardcore conservative than others. And the Iranians I knew, they were liberal thinking and enjoyed global and multicultural ideas. All that's contrary to the way the religious
was that
order.
before the fall of the
Shah?
Was it?
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
So I would have met some of them in my earliest days working in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
In the late 70s. Okay, in 1979, terrible thing happened in the American embassy. The Shah and his family had to leave. But his son has no political impetus. I mean, we're looking at a real situation here where I believe all the people that could have voiced concerns and told Marco Rubio no, and why, I think they've been either pushed out of their positions, and those very measured, scholarly, America First ideas aren't reaching the thought space of President Trump, and he is listening to his deep thinkers on Fox News, and then he's waiting for the applause. It is good to see a quick action. I mean, some of the best videos, better than the Hollywood productions values, are coming out of the White House TikTok feed. And people love that. That is core base. Loves that. Easy win. America first. Well, maybe. America's strength. Good. And they like watching the reruns in the bars and the clubs and the hangouts in Mar-a-Lago. And people are coming to see him, and and they're kissing the ring. Big tech people are saying, "Hey, Palantir delivered for you with your AI." Google's saying, "Thanks a million for that contract and getting rid of Anthropic." So I mean, all this stuff is like the supporting of the ego of a man who is fixated on something that most people think is not a smart idea.
Right, but this is a guy who was looking for the Nobel Peace Prize.
He's board of peace now. He has a $10 billion new board. He's board of peace, so now, and he mentioned that. He says, now they didn't give me a peace prize, so maybe I should go out and stop some more wars, or since I'm not getting the peace prize, well, hey, let's do this.
He is a businessman. I mean, this is his background. But I mean, the market reaction to this. I mean, look at what's going to happen to oil and.
Well, it's bigger than just oil. Oil will be affected. So I mean, I've heard discussion on in the Irish press about perhaps it's time for the government to consider the carbon tax and maybe bringing it down or removing it, because there will be some shocks in the oil area. Now, I mean, if you're looking at petrochemicals, you'd know that the heavy oil they got from Venezuela can't be put into pumps, refined, and then into the pumps and power American transport. But the light oil they have in Iraq could be mixed with the Venezuelan oil. Now it's an easy win. You could feed the pumps and keep the price of fuel at $2 a gallon across many parts of the United States. But, I mean, that all said, that's only one part of it. The other part is the Straits of Hormuz go to not just moving tankers filled with oil, but large container vessels that switch out their cargo with empty and full containers in Dubai. And, like, if that port's closed, that's everything from the supply chain that Ireland needs, durable goods you'd see in shops.
And that's the real weapon that Iran has, is it not?
But potentially. But then, like, yes. And then as I'm thinking, that's money. Okay, that's one thing. But the other part of this is, like, previously, another government might have said, we need to shake up the Ayatollah. And what America would typically do with soft power is say, listen, if you guys back off a little bit and not execute people because they're not wearing certain headgear or their legs are exposed when they're walking the streets, which happens, then we'll give you several $1 billion of aid. So he gutted all those aid programs that America used to have for soft power, thinking, it's a waste of time and space. They could have bribed a government that's in serious economic straits by saying, you behave, and your water purification plant will be retrofitted with these $4 billion we can give just for that project.
They could have bribed the Iranians, you're saying, is that?
Right.
Well, didn't Barack Obama do that, Bernie?
Yeah, and there was no war, I know, and there was a slowdown in their enrichment facilities and everything else. Politics is a slow business, but people don't get killed normally with a bad political decision. And, it's reflecting my own values, saying, look, I don't get really good White House TikTok videos with him signing a $15 billion allocation to retrofit the water purification plants for most of the country. That's not exciting. What's exciting is stuff blowing up and afterburners on a jet and, chiseled Americans doing something.
It's so cynical, though. I mean...
No, but that is the base. That is the base that voted for, America
it's
first.
The MAGA base.
Yeah, strength. Proud American flag on the tail of your aircraft, wear the uniform with pride. Yeah, you might occasionally get shot up and killed, but hey, all for the good. Don't count on a lot of VA benefits, though, because we're keeping the armor at the front and the sharp edge of the spear sharp end, but... Yeah.
Will we look back on it in the same way as we look back in 2003 and say what a drastic mistake this was because, the weapons of mass destruction were not there? Even if we end up in Iran, will we see that there was no cause for concern from a nuclear point of view?
I think you've written that script correctly. I listened to Colin Powell when he was explaining what was on the low-resolution schematics of weapons. And I thought, okay, he would know the high-resolution ones, and he's not revealing the true threat, but he's saying there's a threat. So I trusted his integrity and was misled. Maybe he was as well. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I'm listening to the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, an Air Force four-star general, politely explaining, okay, the number of sorties, number of aircraft lost, number of lives, and he's dealing with the real numbers. And not necessarily echoing directly what the president says about the success of Epic Fury and all the things. He's saying, well, look, This is just a start, measured expression of where we're going. But I mean, to do the stuff they want to do on a repeat basis, if you just try to rewind and say what the Brits and the Americans were doing against the Germans in World War II, there's a lot of sorties. There are a lot of sorties that would have to be flown, but not from Diego Garcia and not from Fairford in England. The Germans won't let it happen. So it's going to have to be close-in stuff. Now, where are those aircraft going to take off from? If they take off from anywhere in the Middle East, they can be hit by drones coming in from Iran. I don't think those countries are going to want that.
Are you afraid for the people of the Emirates then? I mean,
the whole area. I mean, like, if the Iranians think the Saudis are misbehaving, there'll be attacks on mosques in Jeddah, in Riyadh. I mean, this stuff is... When you attack your own country, when your country is attacked or threatened by somebody else in another country, all those power players that have been romanced by the Trump administration are saying, we can't control the rogues in Iran, so can you help us there? The problem is, this is a new page of a new chapter, helping them by launching a gigantic airstrike and then killing the leader. Nobody, you don't get that right. That is not normal behavior, to go into a sovereign state, decapitate its ruler, and then to bomb, its convent schools or, its civic facilities, which is what they're doing. That's not normal.
That's not to take, though, from the behavior of Khomeini's state.
No.
And, the evil of that regime.
And I do know it's evil. Like I said, I can no longer reach the people I knew in 78, 79. So I know they're probably dead, and probably their families as well. That's terrible. It's terrible. Now, do you erase all that? Do you reset everything by what just happened with American military might? I don't think so. This is a long, laborious process. That's why the Middle East is such a tension-filled pot of confusion.
And speaking of confusion, how is it that initially we saw then when Khomeini was taken out, there was jubilant scenes on the streets. Within a very short time then there was opposing protesters on the street saying about the Americans killing him. What is going on there?
Look, I would take that as I would put that through the filter of people who understand the culture, understand the legacy that's gone before, and know what they're seeing and what's manufactured. And I would let them answer that question. But what I know is there are so many small religious sects, micro sites of influence, and I believe most people are rather upset that their country has been attacked. And so you can just think, sure, they might have hated the Ayatollah and really despise everybody who's in second and third in command. But to have your school hit,
yes.
To have your water system destroyed, to have your electrics destroyed, so now you're back to candles, not even batteries with your torch, that's upsetting. And I think it's easy to hate the United States for a lot of reasons, and that they just made it easier. But not just them. In Iran, there's a lot of other people around the Middle East saying, this America is out of control. So all the happy support that would have been in place for like 9/11, to include support from Saudi Arabia, I think we just used up a lot of the political capital.
What about support then for Iran and how that could escalate? I mean, Russia, for example.
Well, Russia's loving it. So is China.
Yeah.
They're just proving it. Look, and big countries can just simply do stuff. I mean, the flip side of that, just watch Zelensky's actually turning into a little lapdog saying, he's willing to, glad to help with intelligence analysis and, to allow whatever has to happen. So, I mean, in a really perverted world, could you imagine America establishing fighter bases in Ukraine? And now that's going to cause Russia a little pause, thinking, we can't keep launching missiles like we used to. That would be an interesting side subtext to this. 3 American fighter wings establishing themselves, around Kyiv and to launch into Iran. I mean, it's so perverted. But that could happen.
And the Chinese?
The Chinese have their own Western world thing, and I think they're happy to know the America's distracted right now. There's a lot of money being poured into American defense, in the Pacific. So, When there's a regime change in America, there's going to be some recalibrating where all this money is and how it should be maybe reset into health and education. And so we got to put up another, maybe 3 years of this, maybe.
That's Trump's term, is what you're talking about. You have a conspiracy theory. Would you share that with us?
Okay, so I believe that I was surprised by how effective going in and out of Venezuela was. So it just proves America has extraction capabilities beyond what I used to support with logistics, with airlift, and with special
this has
forces.
evolved greatly.
Yes. So a lot of that's because of signals, what they can get from satellites, from CCTV, from a mesh of things that are powered by billions of dollars that they poured into this the last 5 years, before Trump. And then they effectively decapitated the Iranian hierarchy, not necessarily because the Ayatollah was carrying a phone, but his security detail had a certain number in it, certain type of cars. You can actually track vehicles moving based on the signals the cars give off, plus CCTV cameras and stuff like that. So that was successful. And so my theory is right. Now let's go for a third, and probably going to be Cuba. But let's time it out so that it happens right before the midterm elections, so a national emergency can be declared, thereby allowing the president to invoke a power which allows him to stop an election.
These are the midterm elections.
Yeah, and maybe even hold that power all the way to the 2028 election. But I believe there will be some really interesting global conflict initiated by America in that hemisphere. Russia won't care about that. China won't care about that. And America will suddenly have this new distraction. The second thing is every time you have performative, high-speed afterburner aircraft on a television screen, you don't remember, wait a minute, Trump's in those Epstein files, so can we see more of that, please? It's just not going to make it to the news cycle. So you got a guy that's in those files that some legislators have said, we've seen his interviews with the 14-year-old girls who he was measuring in the nude. And now, if that comes out with proof of fact, that's another really salacious thing that people are going to say, wait, do we really want to have this man at the top?
But earlier on I spoke of cynicism. But I mean, if that's true, I mean, how cynical? Because so many people are going to die.
Look, Fred, you're in another thought space now. I mean, when we played the checkmate stuff, we knew the result after a certain number of days, loss of our own people, our own aircraft, loss of the other people fighting against our people and our aircraft. It's a chess game, and you get really numb to it after a while. I mean, Trump's become really, off-put. He just, we know it's going to happen. It's so casualties are a normal thing. He's saying things that are really making it obvious that he lacks some empathy with what is going on, with the sacrifice not of the people who are getting hurt or killed, but the families that are affected by that. And then the trauma that's with the people that are part of the band of brothers, the fighter wing, the co-pilot of an aircraft, it's massive. The human cost of what is happening there has not been calculated yet.
Was this a huge mistake?
Well, I think it is. But I think the bigger mistake is the Republicans in Congress aren't standing up and say, you can't do this. But instead, they're down at Mar-a-Lago enjoying this fraternity of friends. So, there's some really strong hawks in Congress that would not they know this is not legal, it is not smart. But both the Republicans and the Democrats have to be able to be on the same Fox News channel saying this. That hasn't happened yet. I think it will happen. And, a few senior people in the Republican side of the Senate will say, stop. We need to stop this. And then they need to use the levers of legislation to do that. He can easily ignore them like he's done. And then that presents another constitutional crisis, a Supreme Court ruling months later after many other deaths. And, we're in a new space of diplomacy, politics. I don't know, when you have at the very top, you have somebody who actually doesn't care, Fran, about the questions you're asking.
Bernie, thanks for coming into us. Pleasure as always. Thank you so much for that. News and information's coming up.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. Glad to be joined now by Labour Deputy for Tipperary, Alan Kelly. Good morning to you, Alan.
Good morning, friends. Great to see the sun shining.
Isn't it just? Isn't it just indeed? Lots to talk about, Alan, national, local issues. But can I ask you first of all about what's going on in the Middle East? Are you scared about what's happening there?
Absolutely. I mean, the world is at a crossroads. You wake up every morning wondering what's after happening overnight. It's extremely scary. And just to say that, obviously there are thousands of Irish in the Middle East, and there are many people in transit as well, and lots of people from Tipperary, lots of families I know, and I've been in touch with many over the last few days who they've been in touch with me looking for travel advice and general advice, and obviously people need to do everything to be safe, but on top of that, I wouldn't be advising anyone to travel there at the moment, or indeed for the next while. If Trump is saying this is going to go on for 4 or 5 weeks, I mean, even after that, Fran, there's bound to be after effects on this, given the volatility of the whole region. So I wouldn't be advising anyone to travel there.
And the loss of life will be appalling, I would imagine, but also from an economic point of view. Yeah,
I also think that a lot of people, Irish people there, should consider coming home, depending on their circumstances, obviously. But I mean, if it's part of if it's travelling for work for a period of time, now's the time to consider coming home, because safety can't be guaranteed. We've very limited what we can do as a country to help people. We're dependent on being part of the European network as well. We don't know what is going to happen next. So as regards travelling there or through there, I wouldn't advise at the moment. And also, I know with loved ones there, you really need to be thinking about your short-term and medium-term plans, because there's going to be a lot of volatility in that region. Domestically, Fran, I just say this out straight, oil prices, diesel prices, everything is going to go up. We're seeing it already. I believe there's gouging going on. Because all of these organisation companies buy in advance, so they price in advance. So how the prices are going up straight away. So there is no doubt, it's beyond doubt, that the government is going to have to intervene for people who are vulnerable and bring in some form of help in the coming weeks to help those people. Because
and if this continues, Alan, should the government look at the carbon tax, for example?
Well, they should look at a package of everything, Fran, but I would favour targeted measures in relation to people on low incomes. That's where I believe they'd have to go. And people with disabilities, people who have, fixed incomes, the elderly, and those who are on low incomes and poor and vulnerable. I think that's where we have to start. And I believe that you're probably going to have to look at that in the next week or two.
Many other things to talk about. You've criticised the Taoiseach for making what you describe as a minimalistic effort to secure the appearance of the social media platform X before the Oireachtas Committee on the Media, which you chair. Micheál Martin said he would write to the company, and that correspondence has now been released under freedom of information. Were you surprised at the brevity of the correspondence?
It was so minimalistic. Look, he was ticking a box. Look, I mean, essentially, the whole issue in relation to online safety is something my committee has been dealing with for the last 4 months. A number of other social media companies came in front of us, X, who caused a lot of the controversy with their grok and their undressing of people, refused to come in front of us. I criticised that. I asked the Taoiseach to intervene, to ask them to tell them to come in front of us. And frankly, what he wrote, which was released to RTE under FOI, because he refused to send me the correspondence.
You asked him for that, didn't you?
I did, and he refused. which is bizarre. Even lots of people in the committee said it was bizarre. But anyway, so basically his private secretary wrote to X and basically said he made a commitment to the Dáil that he'd write, asking them to attend, and this was it. One line, more or less. That was it.
What did you make of his response, though, to RTE? Does it almost take from the validity of your Oireachtas committee when he said the European Commission has responsibility for the investigation in respect of
he's not living in the real world if he thinks that we can wait in every single instance for Europe. It'd be great if we could, but we can't in this instance. I mean, we have to ensure domestic law meets the requirements and safety of Irish people and Irish children. And if Europe is going to take a long time to deal with that, we have to look after our own citizens first. That's what our constitution is. That's why I'm a member of Dáil Éireann, and that's our number one objective, to legislate and protect people. And if we have to deal with that, whereby all of these e-commerce companies need to actually meet Irish law first. In other words, they have to meet our requirements, then we should do that. And I brought in legislation to deal with where images are being generated, whether it's AI or not, to follow on from the famous Coco's Law, which was an excellent piece of legislation that my party drove. So if we have to do that, I believe we should do that. I think his attitude is disrespectful. I think the manner in which he dealt with it this morning in reply was disrespectful. Probably doesn't like the fact that he was basically cut out by RTE, who effectively FOI'd this document. But it certainly shows his attitude towards the whole issue is in the serious as it should be, in my opinion.
Recent good news with the 647 new houses coming to Nina. What is the breakdown of that? Between private, social, affordable, and the like.
Fran, lots of politicians before elections make commitments. Often get criticised for not honouring them. And before the last election, I committed to this. I committed to transforming the town of Nina when it came to housing. And the two sites, I did a video in front of them. I said this was happening. I said there was work to happen, but it was going to happen. And then in the space of a week, I was able to announce both sites. 340 new houses in Tyrone and 307 new houses in Drummond Road. And I'd like to thank publicly Quantum Homes and White Box Developments for their commitments in relation to this and following through on what they said they would do. In relation to Tyrone, where White Box are, who started first, they have 67 social units, of which 23 are wheelchair accessible. So they will be for people who have disabilities, or 1 and 2 or bedroom for individuals or couples. Excuse me. And on top of that, then the balance will be also social housing. There will be 80 affordable houses. The first scheme, which will commence once they finish the social houses, which will be, by the way, at the end of March. And they will be handed over to Respond, the social houses, and then we'll be going on to the affordable and the private, of which there will be 193. In relation to Quantum, there will be 307 houses in Drummond Road, and they will have 100 of those built. They're going to break it down between social and private initially in relation to the first 100. They will have show houses available by the summer, and they expect to be able to sell quite an amount of those by the third quarter of this year. There will also be a large creche at the site in Drummond Road. And in relation to Tyrone, there's going to be a large creche and a nursing home. So this is a massive development, a set of developments in Nina. There are other developments in Nina. There's 32 houses more or less finished behind the Abbey Court, done by SIEC. And there are a number of other sites in Nina as well. So all in all,
and it's all great news, but with all the issues around water and infrastructure, are you confident that these houses will be supplied properly?
I am confident because they're going to be built in over a number of years. So we're in 2026, 2027 and 28. So by the end of 28, all these houses should be finished, more or less. But I do have a criticism of Irish Water, Roscrea, because the councillors, in fairness, whether you're looking at current councillors or former councillors, fought long and hard to get a water treatment plant put into Nina. It was meant to be built by 2024, then it got pushed out. And I've seen the documentation, and I've criticised Irish Water thoroughly on this. Then it was meant to be done by 2027. It's now gone out to 2029. Why these houses and all of these houses will be able to be met by this plant is because it's going to be done in stages. But that doesn't take away the fact that somewhere along the way here, the nearest town to where this famous extraction is supposed to happen, they have profiled that town and pushed it back a number of years. We could say 5 years if you're starting from the baseline a number of years ago, 2024, or you could say 2 years if it's from what they told the council literally over a year ago. So it's now 2029. However, it's been done in stages. So and it's going to facilitate 3,000 houses. So I believe that they will be able to meet these. However, it does put a question mark over what commitments Ishguern do make when they come to plants like that. It's a massive investment. I'm hugely supportive of it because obviously I know there's a huge desire, particularly in Nina, for housing. It's a town that's doing fantastically well. A town that's not just got so many industries, but it's got an agricultural hinterland, it's got tourism, it's got access as regards motorway and close to Limerick and proximity to Shannon and all of that sort of stuff. There's a huge demand for not just social and affordable, but also private housing. So many young people wanting to move from Dublin, people wanting to come back out from Limerick, people wanting to come from first-time buyers and everything else. And I'm hugely supportive of the affordable schemes. So I do believe it'll meet the requirements to treatment plant, but they should be criticised for the manner in which this has been delayed. But all in all, Fran, I've been in politics close to 20 years. To be able to announce 647 houses for your own local town where you're from originally, out the road, it's one of the best days I've had in my political career. It's an incredible amount of houses, and there are many more as well on top of it being built. So all in all, it's going to help so many people, because I find it so difficult in my clinics to go to people and say, look, we don't have the housing stock. This is going to put a hell of a dent into the requirements of the town, because to get more industry in, to facilitate the expansion of a number of companies there, and a number of them are expanding, and to bring and obviously to bring people back to the area who unfortunately can't live in the area at the moment.
And speaking of announcements, last Friday on this programme, Deputy Michael Lowry announced that he confirmed the inclusion of Roscrea in the HSE capital plan. A new Dean Maxwell had a cost of 23 million. I was reading your own press release. You were saying that this was always going to happen anyway. Are you saying that Michael Lowry didn't secure this allocation, Alan?
I've seen some statements in my time in politics, but this was laughable. I mean, the fight for Dean Maxwell has gone on for so long, and I'd like to think of former TDs and former councillors, by the way, who fought very hard for this as well. I'm thinking of the likes of Noel Cloonan and others down through the years who fought so hard for the Dean Maxwell. I'm 100% supportive, but let's just be clear. The HSE announced this long before the last general election. They said this was happening. They made the commitment to it, and we discussed this on your show, Fran, multiple times. I believed them. I accepted what Sandra Broderick, the head of the HSE in the Midwest, said. They are going for a site. They haven't got a site. I get excited when we have a site.
It's down to 2 at the moment with one preferred site, isn't it?
And I am fully aware of what's happening, and obviously I'm not going to speak on sites for commercial sensitivity and all of this sort of stuff. But ultimately, there's 10,000 euros in the capital plan. 10,000 euros of a 23. By the way, it's predicted to be 23. It could be more. That's only an indicative figure, because you don't know, depending on the site cost, depending on what the work has to be done. The bottom line here is this, and I want to compliment the family committee who liaise with all of us as public representatives and the HSE in relation to this, Donegal Delaney and all his colleagues, for all the advocacy and all the work that they are doing behind the scenes in relation to this. The bottom line here is this is not about announcements. This was announced a long time ago, last year. I knew this was going to happen. The question is, can we get to a site agreement? Then, obviously, you have to prepare the site, whatever length of time that will take, in relation to various different issues, obviously servicing and all of that. And then, obviously, legal agreements will have to be done with whoever they buy from. And on top of that, then you have to tender, and then you have to start the construction cycle. And that's what's going to happen here. So,
yeah, but could I put it to you, Alan, that there's been lots of false dawns where Dean Maxwell is concerned, but here you have Michael Lowry, who's a vital part of this government now, considerable influence on this government now, and I presume on the HSE as well. So is he not in the position to finally deliver on this?
Look, Fran, this was announced last year. Sure, I've been speaking to you on your show about this. I mean, sure, we knew this was happening. We get updates from the HSE in the Midwest a number of times a year. I constantly ask about it. They tell us that they were going and looking at sites, and they break down how they're doing that. This is.
So you're saying there's nothing new in what Michael Lowry told us? Then,
what I'm saying is that it's great that it's in the capital plan. It's great that we have illegal fees covered, but it's a long way to go, and this will happen. It will happen, I believe. Of course it'll happen, and it should happen, and I'm 100% supportive of it. But this was all agreed last year that this is the strategy, this is where this was going. So as regards it being a massive new announcement, it is a continuation of what was said before. Similarly, by the way, in relation to Nina Hospital,
26 million there of an investment.
Yeah, which basically, in relation to Nina Hospital, which is basically getting rid of the other Nightingale ward, which I visited quite a bit down the last few years with my parents, and putting in single units. So basically, you'll have 25 extra beds, because you'll have to give it to the Nightingale wards, which is also very important. But let me just point this out, that as regards the capital plan, we knew that was happening too. And this was announced in April 2024 by Stephen Donnelly, when he disgracefully took away our nursing home, which I'm delighted is now open in Nina. He announced in relation to another 98-bed block inside Limerick, and changes in relation to Nina and Ennis. Unfortunately, it's taken a considerable period of time to get to this point, but I'm glad that's included as well. But that was already announced too. And remember, that was the time when the announcement that did come out as regards taking away our nursing home and putting in these beds, these 25 beds, that was welcomed by Fianna Fáil and Michael Lowry, even though the people of Nina obviously were totally against that at the time.
It's interesting, but I mean, you do take on board what I'm saying to you, though, that I mean, whatever about announcements and one thing or another, if you're inside the tent, and if you are part of the government, and if you are influential, it can go from announcements to reality.
Well, Fran, that may be the case. If that's the case, then there's lots of other projects which I'd love to see such influence delivering on. For instance, Closh-Vera in Thurles, which missed out in the school capital plan. Closh-Pobble in Roscrea, which missed out in the school capital plan. Newport, the secondary school in Newport College, and also the primary community school in Nina. All four of them. We only had one school in North Tipperary in the capital plan. So if we have so much influence, why aren't they in the school building programme capital plan? In relation to these two specific projects, they had been announced previously in relation to being advanced by the HSE. I was at meetings. Sure, look, Fran, you can go back on your own show and listen to interviews by me, by Michael, and indeed by many others talking about them.
The power of the people forced a government U-turn, Ellen, on the SNA cuts last week, but the fight for fairness in special education, really, it goes on and on. It was remarkable what happened there with the SNAs, wasn't it?
I've spoken to so many government TDs in relation to this, and they can't get over how this government went down this road. They're disgusted. Picking on the most vulnerable. It reminded me, Fran, for all the world of, do you remember in 2008-9, I might be wrong in the year, when the government proposed cutting the old age pension as regards to Christmas bonus and all of that. The outcry was incredible. It reminded me of that, because you don't pick on the vulnerable. And I know the value of SNAs. I know personally in relation to my own life. I also know my wife is a teacher. Owen Kenny, who's our spokesperson on education, is a former teacher. He's the youngest TD in the Dáil. I think he's been very, very good on this issue. But bottom line here is this. The idea that you could go and sell a proposal whereby you were cutting SNAs and without understanding the value that they have, the endemic need that they are to the students that they work with. And the thing that I believe is totally underestimated is the value that they have in the classroom to the teacher as an overall team working in the classroom. As I say, Regina, my wife, is a teacher. Imagine taking the SNAs permanently out of her classroom. She wouldn't be able to function. We are not like Britain. We don't have teaching assistants, for instance. We have SNAs. So that overall value has never, ever been understood, I believe, by this government. On top of that, then you have the whole issue of redeployment. On top of that, you have the whole issue now that it was proven, shown in the Public Accounts Committee last Thursday by my colleague Owen Kenny, that special classes aren't fully funded for 2027. So this issue is ongoing. I believe that from a government perspective, where they are at now, saying that they won't change anything for next year and that they're going to allow the extra SNAs into those who need them. But what are they going to do as regards long-term planning for what we need in our classrooms, what we need in our schools as regards this whole issue? Because there's another issue. Children and students with secondary issues, autism, ADHD, loads of other conditions, like they are not even in the majority covered by this. So where are we going in relation to that? So this whole area needs to be relooked at.
And can you get your head around how these emails or letters were delivered without this getting to Cabinet or getting signed off by Cabinet?
I honestly, I think that's just a yarn. It's rubbish. I mean...
Do you think it was known?
It was absolutely known. Technically, whether a decision was made at Cabinet, and I've sat at Cabinet, the last TD last minister in Tipperary to sit at Cabinet, I know how this works. Technically, was there a decision or minuted? Maybe not. But the idea that this didn't go by Cabinet is laughable.
Well, Micheál Martin seemed to be genuinely taken aback by it.
Well, if he is, he's not in control of his government. Look, being honest with you, the amount of people who ask me who's the Minister for Education throughout all of this is huge. The junior minister, in fairness to him, probably made more appearances in the media in relation to this. But all in all, from a departmental management point of view, how this got to this stage is beyond my comprehension. Any department, any minister was on top of their brief, wouldn't have allowed this to happen. And we are nowhere near resolving this. The huge hurt has been caused. No, not alone that, huge worry. And I was inundated with people. I have a very close relationship to this topic, Fran, as you probably know. I could not get over how insensitive, how deliberate, and how in a kind of a functional way this was done without the consideration of the children who have these needs, the teachers, the schools, the parents, and communities in general, because it really is a line that was crossed that a lot of people aren't going to forget.
All right, I must leave it there. Alan, thanks for your time this morning.
Before I go, can I just acknowledge Dolly O'Connor in Portugal, my neighbour, passed away a few days ago. Dolly is the mother of Jerry O'Connor, Jerry Banjo O'Connor, friend.
Good.
Probably,
of course, yes.
So she was a legend. Famous for Gary Kennedy, the music sessions down there, particularly on Sundays and many other days as well. A fantastic lady, a good friend of my family down through the years, and just condolences to her family. Did a little trip yesterday with her down around Gary Kennedy again one last time because she was infamous with Irish music, raised a fantastic family, so she'll be missed by the Irish music community and massively missed by the community around Portugal. So may she rest in peace.
That's for sure. Thanks, Alan. Thank you and good morning to you. That's Deputy Alan Kelly speaking to us today, and my condolences indeed. I didn't realise to Jerry and his family on the loss of their mum. We'll take a break, back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Support for men's sheds in North Tipperary should be reinstated, and that's according to a local councillor at the February meeting of the Thurles Municipal District. In the fall, Councillor Kay Cahill-Skehan tabled a motion calling for support to be reinstated for the men's sheds in the area, and she joins me now. Good morning to you, Kay.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for coming on with us this morning, Kay. Would you tell me about this and what kind of support are you talking about?
Yeah, well, the men's sheds, there's 4 standalone men's sheds in our Tipperary. And we have Thurles, Littleton, Borrisacane and Silvermines. So they're standalone men's sheds and they're working on their own. In South Tipperary, some of those are under, say, the resource centres, the men's sheds. So they have a better chance of operating with help. But the standalone men's sheds, they say that they need a SICAP support officer to help them.
That's Social Inclusion Community Activation Programme, isn't it, Kay?
Yes, the Social Inclusion Activation Community Programme, that's right. And they have a support officer from that group helping them within the sheds, and that's what they have had. And you see, with these sheds, you have to take, number one, the age profile of the men's sheds. It's possibly 75 plus 80. And, they're going in, they go into the men's sheds for company to be able to help do the different things that they're capable of doing, but they don't want to take responsibility for the running of the shed. And you cannot assume that volunteers will give good governance. And administration and governance are so important in the sheds. And the key element here is good governance, really. And most of the men in the sheds don't have the professional capacity to run a shed, nor do they want to take on the responsibility of running a shed. So when they have a SICAP officer in place, he comes on, he helps them with the running of the shed. Say, for example, if they're to get their fire extinguishers checked, because of the capacity and what the sheds are doing, they have to go through a more rigorous profile for checking all these things. And the SICAP officer will take all of that on board. Then if there's different funding coming available and coming on board, well, he's able to source that funding and he's able to help them with the applications. And you know yourself that people are phased with application forms, and older people, when they go into a shed like that, they don't want to be weighed down with the administration of this shed and applying for money, and if they need money for something, they just want to get the money. They don't want to have to source it.
And Kay, were the sheds supported by the activation programme at one stage?
Yes, the SICAP officer has been withdrawn. Their SICAP officer
has
been withdrawn.
Why did they withdraw the officer?
Well, they didn't have really a major consultation with them about withdrawing it. They were just told that the SICAP officer was being withdrawn. But the LCDC are still saying that the help is available to the sheds, and that they're going to make the courses still available to them, and that they can do all the things, help them with all the things they did. But having a person on site and in situ is what the sheds, especially the standalone sheds, that's what they need. Like having the help, that still is putting the total responsibility on them to go to the courses, to organise what needs to be done, to get the money, to access it all themselves. And that's what they don't want to have to do. Because, as you know yourself, Fran, that responsibility falls on 1 or 2 people within a shed. There's only 1 or 2 people that will be possibly... I'm not taking from the people's, what they can do, but there's only 1 or 2 people willing to do it and able to do it. And accessing funds isn't an easy task. The task is there, the money is there, but they need to be able to know how to get it.
And that's very specialised indeed. Is it that there's not an appreciation of these sheds, even from a mental health point of view and a social inclusion point of view and all of it?
You see, and that has to be taken into account, because I'm saying the age profile of these sheds is 75 plus, and we all know it is. But it's still open to people over 18 years of age. It doesn't matter race, creed, nationality, anything, mental health capacity. Anyone can go to these sheds. So, say, for example, there was a course run there recently on mobile phones and that. And the amount of men that went to it, and men living alone can use their phone now to keep in touch with family and friends in a way that they weren't able to do before. Say, some of them mightn't have been able to use WhatsApp. And, it provides a level of security that wasn't available to them before. They didn't know maybe how to speed dial numbers, that type of thing. And it gave them peace of mind, maybe even to do online grocery shopping and that type of thing. And the feedback from that course was exceptional. And that course, okay, it's there and it's available, but they might know it was available if they didn't have the SICAP officer.
Of course. What support are you getting from other councillors on this, Kay?
Oh, well, I know that I'm getting good support from them. Willie Kennedy seconded the motion at me, and there's cross support. I know that in South Tipperary, even though they possibly haven't the same problem with standalone sheds, but they would totally be for giving as much help as possible to the men's sheds.
Yes.
So I know that there is cross-party support.
And who has the giving of this, so to speak? Is this the local authority?
Well, the men's sheds would be very appreciative of the local authority, and they know that they would have got help from the county council over the years, and they're very appreciative of that. But I suppose the funding is coming from the LCDC and different places where the funding has to be placed. They say, I suppose, that they need the funding elsewhere, and they're still going that, they can't keep providing funding for them on a long-term basis, but they need the support on a long-term basis. So if the people giving the funding feel that it needs to be placed elsewhere, well, look, they're still providing the courses for them. They're still saying they can have access to all of that, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think the standalone sheds are going to need the individual support from a person, between them. Like, for example, he's also... the support officer is able to link different groups. Like in Thurles, they formed a choir, and they were with the choir from Templemore, and not a men's shed, and they grouped together. But it was the SICAP officer was able to do that liaison for them between one group and another. So, he's opening up, the SICAP officer opens up what is available to them in so many different capacities. So by withdrawing that SICAP officer support, it's limiting what they're able to do.
When will you hear back about this, do you think?
Well, there has been a response from the LCDC, and that which I have to go through. Okay. And I'm hoping that, where they're saying they can't provide an individual person for the sheds, I'm hoping that there will be some, we will be able to have a bit of dialogue, and that where they're giving maybe not as much as we want, hopefully we'll be able to get a happy outcome to it.
Well, I think they're vital to local communities, and I hope you have a good result where that is concerned. Before I let you go, Kay, we were speaking earlier on to Edel Carey, a wheelchair user there. And just, I know Edel. Yeah, well, she was just bringing up the difficulties of people with disability, particularly with the budget cuts as they view it in Budget 26. Are you hearing from people with disabilities quite a lot?
Well, yes, because I know Edel's problem, with coming in and out. She comes into our shop now in Roscrea, and it's quite wheelchair accessible. We have a lot of space and that in the middle of the shop and everything. But yeah, wheelchair users need to have their voices heard, and I think definitely, we need to be able to help them more, because it's totally important that they have access to anywhere that they want to go. Would you be in agreement that they need to have that disability payment, for example, Kay? Oh yeah, I would, because it's totally, and Edel is a great advocate for all of the disability units. She really is, and I think, we have to help her in every way we can. And yes, that payment, of course, is totally important. All right, good to talk to you, Kay. Thanks for your time today. Well, thanks, and Fran, I really appreciate it. And with our feedback, I'll come back to you when I hear if we get a suitable outcome to this, So thank you very much. Thank you for bringing it to the listeners. You're welcome here anytime, Kay, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thanks for coming on with us. Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. That's Fianna Fáil Councillor Kay Cow Skian speaking to us there. 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Now, Martin Harty was in touch with the show this week because he believes more needs to be done to protect people and animals from dog attacks, and he joins me online now. Good morning to you, Martin.
Good morning, Fran.
Good to talk to you again, Martin.
Yeah, you too, Fran.
It's been a while, but thank you for coming on with us. Would you tell me what the situation is with dogs?
Well, it's just I've noticed, without getting much coverage of news of it, there's been several, in the last month, there's been 2 children, young children, one in Kilkenny and Callan, one in outside in Dublin. I get the address down in a minute, but an 18-month-old.
Yeah.
And then you had, we would say, in our own, I go back to our own Kilcommon postman last March, was in his 60s, suffered serious bite wounds to his legs and lower body. Two German Shepherd Alsatians attacked him.
Yeah.
Now, there was also a Nina man attacked and hospitalised in Nina in December 24. But you see, if you go back, 25 is actually a lot worse around the country for the amount of attacks on people and animals.
Yeah.
It's actually going up the whole time, Frank.
But it doesn't seem to be making headlines as much.
No, it's not. It's not. No. But the trouble, I also think that the laws are there. The laws are fine, but they're not being enforced rigorously enough, Fran.
Yeah.
I mean, I give them, when I go into Silver Street car park in Nina, where I always park, if you go in there now, you'll get a ticket. What I mean is you'll buy a ticket, because if you don't, you'll be checked.
Yeah.
I don't mean every minute, but you know there's a good chance you'll be fined if you don't do it.
Yeah, of course.
But you can walk your dog. I've been around, not just Nina, but you name it in the country, because I have a lot of relations in different parts of the country. I've never seen a dog with a muzzle. Restricted dogs should wear a muzzle in public.
And that's the law, Martin, isn't it?
That's the law. That is the law.
Yeah.
Restricted dogs. No, I don't see, vets will tell you, some people, it's cruel. It's not cruel to wear a muzzle. If you get the right muzzle for the dog. People pay 700-800 for a pup, 1,000. I don't see why they wouldn't pay 20 or 30 if they had to for a muzzle. The last muzzle I saw was greyhounds who were chasing hares who weren't allowed to kill them. They were wearing muzzles.
But you're not seeing it on the streets, and you'd recognise those breeds.
In public places, your restricted dogs.
Yeah.
I think also others who have offended should wear a muzzle.
Yeah, but you'd recognise those dogs that should be muzzled, and you're saying to me you see them on the streets and they're not. They're not muzzled.
They're not. I wou't pick out one dog, because dogs are dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I reared dogs. My father did. I'll be honest about it. I'm not boasting, but I never had a bad dog bite anyone. Mm-hmm. Because in a way, Fran, there's a huge variety to pick from now. But when you and I were young, there was terriers. You had Irish setters. My father had Springer Spaniels. You had greyhounds. But what I mean is, there's such a choice. It's gone out of control. We can still do it here. We can still control it.
Right,
but if we don't do something about enforcing the law, we're going to lose out, I think.
But what's concerning you? Some of these mixed breeds that are out there now, is it?
The child in Callan, County Kilkenny, 18 months old, attacked by dogs, 2 dogs. Now, often it is 15% of these attacks are by owners' dogs. A woman in Dunleary was taken to hospital after 2 English Bull Terriers attacked her on her balcony. Her son had the 2 dogs put down. They were there about 3 weeks ago. She was taken to hospital, and neighbours said, they were lovely, placid dogs. I don't know, Frank. I mean, people say, they were provoked.
Well, will you tell me about this? Because you have experience of rearing dogs, and you say you never had a bad dog. So is it about how people rear the dogs and train the dogs?
Yeah, it is. But also, Frank, if you have a use for a dog, I mean, my dogs were pets with my children. When I came home with a pup, or if my bitch had pups, they loved the shit. They loved them. Now, everyone loves dogs. All people love pups. What I'm saying is, if you are careless with your dog, if they're out, if they're not fed, you might as well do it with your children. It's the same thing, Frank. It's a horrible comparison to have to make. But if you don't look after them, and which most people do, you see, the law isn't for people who look after things or who keep the law. The law is for the other people.
Yeah, but you see, dogs are unpredictable, though, Martin. I mean, you can train them as much as you want, but
dogs attach things. If your dog sees the lead, he wants to go for a walk. If he sees me, I used to have a bitch there. She's dead now, but she'd see me putting on my wellies, and she'd know she was going for a pheasant shoot or duck shoot, and she loved it, and she'd love it. Dogs love exercise. Even I didn't realise until a woman told me horses get excited when they're going out for a run.
Yeah,
because they love it.
Yeah. So you're talking about policing it more on the streets? Is that
I'm
it?
talking about if you come out my road, any road out of any big town, Mean, you come out Puckane, you go to Limerick, you go at 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, everyone walks their dogs around bypasses. I mean, why isn't there a spot check and saying, why haven't you a muzzle on this dog? You're fine. If I go to the car park, I was fined €80 for parking in the street I went into a chemist shop. Now I was wrong, but I was fined, and I paid it, and the rest I was wrong.
But are you saying we need more?
Let them be at least asked, why don't you have a muzzle?
Right. But are you saying we need? Are you saying we need more? Are you saying we need more dog wardens, or we need the Gardaí to be involved in this?
Dog wardens as well, but also you need more. If a friend of mine says, "Oh God, I was in Silver Street, I got fined. The fella took me, got a ticket." If your fella next door has a dog and he says, "Well, I have to get a muzzle next week because it's going to cost me €80 if I don't," you'll think about it the next day. You're going for a walk, maybe out of town. You know.
I'm sure you would.
I had a case in my own family, my sister-in-law and her friend, and I'm not getting any younger. My sister-in-law though wasn't healthy at the time, but anyway, they had a little dog. Now, this was a small dog attacked by a dog. A woman was walking the other type of bulldog. Now, I can't tell you what it was. My sister-in-law got the Bichon Frise dog off this dog. How she did it, I don't know. And when she said to the woman, "You should have a muzzle on that dog," she was told, "You can, F off," she was told. Yeah. I swear to God, Fran, that is exactly what she was told. Now, the other woman was so worried about her dog, she went to the vet. Huge money, but she saved to save the dog. But this is exactly what you were told. You can go and F yourself. You know?
But I mean, that's unforgivable.
That's horrible.
Isn't it?
You
Just indeed.
You wouldn't say it to the dog.
Do you still have dogs, Martin?
I had my last bitch. Now I sold my guns because there's waste of time. I don't mean a waste of time, but I don't. You see, it's different. What I mean is, what I used to get during the summer, even pigeon shooting. And I'd get a bit of woodcock shooting in the winter, and I'd always have a nice. You see, you learn over the years. You train dogs, and my father trained them. And some dogs they naturally take to it, and they're lovely. And I had a bitch, she died, so I packed in the whole thing. I got into other things as well, you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But do you miss the dogs? You do, I suppose.
I miss the dog. I miss the dog when I go out, because it's like when you train a young hurling or train anyone. When your dog fetches the first duck or puts up his first pheasant and you shoot it, that's you made. You know, that's something you think that's not shooting. It's part of the. It's like tying flies for fishing, and you catch your trout on your first fly. Right. You're over the moon, you know.
As the bond with you and the dog, I guess.
You see, there's other things attached to these sports that people don't realise. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to learn, and you learn all the time, you know.
Yeah. Well, Martin, great to talk to you today, and most interesting, and thank you for your time. Thank you. Letter into the show, and it's a tough letter. It says, Fran, I'm writing today because I feel really heavy at the moment. My head is filled with not only regret, but fear of failing. I'm healthy and in my early 30s, but I feel like I am never doing enough. I have a job I love, but I can't afford a house. I did all the things we learned when we were young. I studied hard, I got good grades, I went to college, got a good job. But it's always, what if? Why don't I have more friends? Why didn't I do a different degree in college? Why if I can never afford a house? What if I never meet the love of my life? Why is the cost of fuel killing my bank account? I see others out on the town buying fancy clothes and thousands in savings. And yes, I'm getting by. But is this all there is to life in Ireland? I hope it's not just me. I hope there are others out there who understand the feeling of being stuck in a kind of limbo. Isn't that a sad letter? Isn't that a sad letter in from one of our listeners today? 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckane. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckane. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tip today. Listen around to say, just listening to that man talking about dogs, that was Martin who spoke to us earlier on. He was talking about dogs out of control. I see it every day myself. It shocks me to see how irresponsible owners are. Some owners have very vicious dogs indoors with young children. That man is 100% right. These dogs should be muzzled when out. And don't get me started on dog fouling. It's shocking, Inina. Every time you step out on a footpath, you walk into dog poo. I never see a dog warden anywhere, says one of our listeners on 083 311 3311.
For every problem, there's a solution. Dear Phil on Tip Today with Phil Prendergast.
She's got all the solutions under her arm.
Every single one of them.
They're all with her.
Yeah, and some even hanging off my wrist.
What are you making about what's happening out in the Middle East?
Yeah,
are you horrified?
It's a very big worry. You know, there's so many aspects to it, and I suppose what we would think about here, because we're a little bit insular, is that people that we know that are out there are now in bother.
Yeah.
And it's all got to do with the fact that they can take a decision in America and it can stop the world. It can stop anything. And it's a worry for anyone that has relatives or friends or family living out there or commuting to there. I mean, my Luke used to go over and back to Abu Dhabi quite regularly because he used to lecture over there. But now he'd only go for maybe a couple of days at a time. Long way to go, but you know, he used to do it. So I mean, obviously that won't be happening for now. So there's an impact everywhere. So he's a professor in Nottingham, and they would go recruiting students to come to Nottingham University, and there's a status in that insofar as it gives them a place to come and a place where they're going to have a background, and they also have a place in Abu Dhabi that they can equally go and get students from there, or they can exchange them. So it's quite a good policy, but that's broken for now.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
Stephen O'Brien earlier on. Stephen is from Anacarty, neighbours of our own there, and he's in Abu Dhabi at the moment, and everything seems to be suspended at the moment. They're trying to educate people on Zoom or something like that as well at this point, you know. So. Yeah,
but it's a real big worry, because if you're out there and you can't get back, I don't believe there would be anything worse. Now, I don't know how, if you see any more, you don't know how factual anything is, Fran, but looking at the airport last night, and all you had was wall-to-wall people.
Yeah.
Wall-to-wall people, including young children.
Trying to get out,
trying to get on a plane. And even is it safe to get on a plane now when you're going to be crossing skies that maybe are subject to some person somewhere pressing a button and saying, that's it, let's get rid of that?
Isn't it just
it's such a worry for people,
awful.
You know.
It certainly is indeed. Let us get down to some of our letters then. The first one: Dear Phil, my partner and I got engaged at Christmas after being together for 5 years. I'm over the moon. I can't wait to marry him, but there's one problem. I hate my engagement ring. We had obviously spoken about getting married, and I thought I had mentioned what kind of a ring I would like. I thought we would go ring shopping together, but my fiancé went and got one designed and made for me. Now, I know this is really romantic, and he obviously went to a lot of time and effort and expense to make me something unique, but I just don't like it. It's not the shape or size I want. I think it will be difficult to get a wedding ring to match it. I haven't mentioned it to him that I don't like it. I just figured that I would get used to it and would grow to love it because he made it for me, but I just don't like it. I think it's gaudy and it's not my style. I only mentioned it to my mum that I don't like it, and she told me that I was being a brat and not to open my mouth about it. So am I now just resigned to spending my life wearing a ring that I hate? Not only that, but it's so opposite of what I had spoken about. It makes me question if this man listens to me at all. What should I do, Phil?
Well, it's real lack of communication here, isn't it? It's he thought he was doing a great thing. She doesn't like what he did. So she needs to sit down and just say to him, listen, I really appreciate what you did, but you know what? That does not suit my finger. It doesn't. Now, a wedding ring is usually a plain band. I know maybe they jazz them up, all sorts of things on them now, and there's all sorts of bling going on, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. But I mean, there must be a way of there's a lot of jewellers are really good at repurposing rings, or taking, if there's someone might get a diamond and then they might have rubies or sapphires beside it and just think, yuck, don't like that at all, and you can get it all changed to diamonds or whatever. So there is an opportunity for her to say, look, I don't want this to be a question of falling out. I really don't like this because it doesn't suit whatever, and it doesn't suit my fingers and it doesn't suit my hand, and it's too big, or it's too bold, or it's too brazen, or it's too brassy. I don't really like it, and I'd like to have it changed.
I go along with the mother. I think she's a brat.
Do you think she's a brat?
I do. He went to such trouble, God knows.
Oh, no. And you see, I don't want to be taken from the trouble he went to. Yeah. But he designed her a big ring. You know, it's not the shape or the size that she wants. And she thinks it'll be a problem getting... Now, I don't think there'd be a problem getting a wedding ring to match anything, because a wedding ring is generally... It's plain, generally it is. Yeah. But nowadays, there's all sorts of bling on wedding rings as well. So it's very much what people are happy with. And it could be just a misstep, and that she doesn't really like it, and she should consider changing it. And if she can't change it, she should consider just trying to get it remade in a different way.
She should consider changing it. But like, if he's a sensitive type, will he not be devastated by that?
You see, I don't know. If you're very reasonable and just say, you know, I would have really liked if we had done this together. I don't think... Fran, oftentimes men don't know what women would like.
Go away.
Yeah, that would be kind of a thing. And it's better if, when you're doing something that has an impact on your life, because an engagement is a big time and it's a plan that you're going to get married and all the rest of it. I don't think it's a good idea to just go off and say, I'm going to surprise her with a big rock and two other littler rocks or bigger rocks or different coloured rocks, and I'm going to do this and she'll be delighted.
There's love on the rocks now.
You do. There could be love on the rocks, but like, oftentimes people need to see what a ring is like on them before they take a decision on it. And when people go shopping for rings, they just...
But that notion of going ring shopping together, is that not relatively recent? Like, it wasn't the idea that your man would present the ring?
Fran, I can remember going off to Grafton Street to get engaged. We went up and just looked at a ring, saw a ring in the window, said, we'll go and get that.
Right.
Two tiny little diamonds.
Okay, with subtlety. You see.
Fierce, understated.
Yeah, I don't know. So
and unremarkable.
I'm sure not at all. But so you reckon she needs to talk to him, but she needs to be careful though.
No, look, it's a sensitive subject, and she needs to just say to him, I want to get that redone because it is too big on my finger. It won't suit the wedding. It's just too big. And some rings can be too big, Fran, where you just feel that you can't wear them.
Okay.
Because they're going to get caught on clothing, or it's not appropriate for your workplace, for instance. There's quite a lot of companies now would have maybe policies about not wearing jewellery into work because of if they're working with machines or machinery or something like that, it could have an impact.
Okay. All right. So talk to him gently.
And just say to him, I really appreciate what you did, but can you understand that does not suit my small, tiny, little, delicate fingers? Says she of the fat fingers.
Would you stop? So letter number 2 then. Dear Phil, my husband and I are planning a holiday abroad later this summer. It will be our first family holiday because we will be bringing along our 8-month-old. Good luck with that. I'm very excited about our first family holiday, although I know it will be different from the holidays that we used to take when it was just us. The problem is, everybody I speak to says I'm wasting my time and money bringing a baby abroad, and we should just get someone to mind her for the week, or indeed not go at all. It's really putting me off. I'm being told that the baby will probably get sick on the plane, be a nightmare to travel with, and when we get there, we'll be too unsettled to sleep and we won't enjoy it. Some people say holidays are a waste for children under the age of 4. I've never considered this when booking a holiday, and I'm wondering if they're right. Am I wrong to bring a baby on holiday?
You see, now this is a difficult one, Fran, and I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of controversy, but I mean, I would find it very difficult to go away without a baby.
Leave somebody around the baby.
I would find that difficult.
Yeah, sure.
So I'd be happier to bring the baby with me. Babies are extremely adjustable. They will sleep. If the heat is, if they're able to go into the swimming pool and be held and swim around or play around in the pool, it can be lovely for them. They sleep a lot as well in the heat. All they need to do is make sure they have the right food for the baby, or that they can get it, and they can in most places these days. Not an issue at all. I don't think she's wrong to bring her baby. The baby is only 32 weeks old, like. It's a small little thing.
But do you know on planes sometimes you hear babies screaming because their little ears are affected?
Yeah, and you need
pressure.
to make sure that you give them maybe a little bit of Calpol or something like that, and give them a soother so that they can suck, because while they're sucking, the eustachian tube is not it's not open. It's not going to cause that pain in the ears.
Okay.
So it's quite good to have them have that, or have a little teething ring, and have a little cool box with things like that are going to be useful for the baby. But I do think it's very hard on parents of an 8-month-old, and they're already tired, and they're getting used to this little thing. That, you know, it's nice to go on holidays. Make sure the baby has complete sun cream. Make sure it has a polyotter suit. Make sure that the baby is covered, but not hot, but covered from the sun, and is in the shade at all times. Just be careful. There is an additional responsibility bringing a small child anywhere, and of course the older little children, you have to watch them like a hawk. I do remember being in Tenerife one time where a 2-year-old went out. They weren't in the apartment, I'd say 3 minutes, and that child was dead.
Oh my God almighty.
Went out, fell into the pool.
Oh Lord, yeah.
And they didn't miss the child for a minute or two.
Worst nightmare.
A most terrible trauma. It was the most terrible trauma. And I suppose there's a responsibility bringing children anywhere, but like, people do like to go on holidays.
Yeah.
I would find it difficult to leave a child behind, because you just wonder, is it okay? And
well, you'd spend the whole holiday
you would be fretting, yeah.
Child,
you'd rather have the child with you and know. But there is rules about going abroad with a very small child, and you do know how to keep it out of the sun and out of direct heat. You need to have a little bit of Calpol for it, or whatever is the appropriate thing these times. And if the baby is teething, make sure you have the cool teething rings, and that you have all the paraphernalia you need for your little child.
Because I feel sorry for the mum, because she said they were very excited about their first family holiday together. So,
Sure, it is very exciting, and like, there's a lot of people have opinions about different things, Fran, and it's easy have an opinion, I suppose, when you're old like me, or when you're, when you don't maybe have the same age bracket yourself, or maybe have no children. It's very easy to talk about somebody saying, God almighty, how can you even go out at night? I would see babies out in Lanzarote all of the time, out in their strollers asleep, or covered in with their little umbrella, and they can move the umbrella around to wherever the sun is and keep the sun off the baby, and have a little light cover then if it's cool in the night. Whatever, and it's very nice to have your child with you, I think.
Enjoy yourselves, just mind yourselves, as
mind yourself, and find, just find a balance of not being too judgmental on people that choose to bring their young babies with them, and also don't be judgmental if somebody leaves their small baby behind them. I personally don't think I could do it.
All right, our final one then. Dear Phil, my son was married for a number of years to a woman that I adored and got on very well with. They had 2 children together, and these girls are the apple of my eye. Unfortunately, my son and his wife divorced 2 years ago. I love spending time with my grandchildren, and I try to collect them from school a couple of days a week, and will take them for days out regularly. The problem arose last year when my son got married again to a lady who has a daughter from a previous relationship. The child is lovely, I have no issue with her. But the problem is that both my son and his new wife are insisting that I include his stepchild in my outings with my grandchildren. I don't mind doing it from time to time, but she's almost being forced on me, and they even refer to me as her granny. I don't want to sound heartless, but I have no blood ties to this child, and I don't see why I'm being forced to embrace her as one of my own. I try to explain this to my son in a diplomatic way and say that I really value my time with my grandchildren alone, but he says that I need to treat all the girls the same. I don't agree. I feel I am forced to go along with things in case it affects my time with my grandchildren. I find myself growing very resentful towards the poor child, who I know is innocent in all of this, and I'm afraid it will fracture my relationship with my son. I just want to have some quality time with my own grandchildren. What's the best way to approach this?
Well, I think it's very difficult to try and exclude one child when it's now a family.
Sure.
It may be a blended family, but it is a family. And I think to have a judgment because the child didn't belong to her son it's a bit strange. I think it's much better if the child is included. She's not been asked to take the child every single time, but why exclude a child when it is a family, and it's a family that is inclusive, as you would imagine. So I don't understand. She said, the child is lovely, I've no issue with her, but the problem is that both my son and his new wife are insisting that I include his stepchild in my outings. Now, there seems to be a little bit of sort of expectation there that perhaps I'd say the communication isn't the best between them all, because I think there's a way of saying that without it feeling like you're imposing a child that now they're trying to say, it's not our child, it's not our family. It is their family if he's now married to the woman that had that child. It is their family. You can't just say, well, we'll go and bring the kids out today, but we'll have to leave the child at home and get someone to mind her because she's not, she wouldn't be as welcome. Yeah. So it's not right to actually start making judgments about families and blended families and families that have little bits of complications involved in the makeup of the family, but it's a reality. And I personally don't think that it should be an issue if you're only having children every so often. And if it doesn't suit you to take the children, don't take any of them or take them all. And we're talking about 2 versus 3.
And she's taking issue with the little one calling her granny, but I mean,
but sure, what else is she to do? And we don't know what ages they are, but I'm assuming 3, 4, 5 even. I mean, why would she not do what she hears?
Yeah.
Like when we were small, I thought I was very offended when I heard my friend calling her mother Mammy, and I said, she's not Mammy. My Mammy is my mammy. And I didn't know that mammy was a universal term because I was so thick, oh God, when I think back. But anyway, so you often can get, you can get conflicted. But I mean, when a family is a family, they're a family, and there shouldn't really be much of a difference. And what is the difference of one more child making and then excluding her? You can't do it.
But where she is right is where she's thinking, will it fracture my relationship with my son eventually? I think it could easily. Well,
definitely it'll have an effect. Definitely it'll have an effect because, they want the best.
His allegiance is going to be to his new wife.
Absolutely, absolutely. But his new wife does come with a package.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a complexity that's probably quite common now, Fran, because there's so many blended relationships and families, and breakups, and people meet others, and they might have other children or whatever, and it can get quite complicated. But it doesn't have to be too complicated. And for the grandmother to be all offended because there's a child there that wasn't sired by her son, it's kind of like quite exclusive to sort of say, well, that child shouldn't really be coming with my grandchildren because she's not my grandchild. And no, she's not, but you're like, Granny, get over it. How long or how much time do you have to spend with them? Yeah. And isn't it always nice to spend time with grandchildren?
Well, that's for sure indeed. That's our 3 letters, but I'd love your comment on I'm not sure, is it an email or a letter that Leanne got earlier on, but I think it is reflected with a lot of people out there. Just to sum it up, because I read it out earlier, Phil, it says, I call into the show today because I feel heavy at the moment. My head is filled with not only regret but fear of failing. I'm healthy, I'm in my early 30s. I feel like I'm never doing enough. I have a job I love, but I can't afford a house. I did all the things we were told when we were young. I studied, I got good grades, I went to college, I did a good job. but it's always what if. Why don't I have more friends? Why didn't I do a different degree in college? Why can't I afford a house? What if I never meet the love of my life? Why is the cost of fuel killing my bank account? I see others going out in the town buying fancy clothing and a lot of savings, yet I'm just getting by. But is this all there is to life? And that's the essence of it. Is this all there is?
You see, sometimes
does that surprise you that you'd get a letter like that?
It does, because, but I understand it, because a lot of times people are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with the cost of living. As you can see right now, oil, I think, might be gone up by €100 now, whatever the fill is or whatever. There's increases everywhere on the course of one decision by a creature to decide that the world needs a reset and let's everything get more expensive and whatever, and it's causing mayhem for people. But in terms of someone not feeling it, it does sound like there's quite a degree of lack of confidence with her, and it might be good for her to go and chat with somebody that would have, be good to chat to, that would kind of give her a steer. Overwhelming sometimes can mean that you're doing too much, overthinking things, trying to think too much, trying to do too much planning, try to be the good person all the time. Sometimes it's okay to say, I'm actually not going to bother going out this weekend. I'm actually going to go and do my walk, but I'll do a walk in a certain distance and I'll turn and come back, instead of doing maybe a 6 or 4 or whatever length of a journey.
Yeah, is it that, do you get to a certain age and, if you were on your own at that point, you're not in a relationship, do you begin, I wonder, to question everything at that point?
Yeah, well, you see, you're always wondering, is it your personality?
Yeah, is it me?
Is it that you're not with the right company? Is it that you're not going to somewhere where you can meet some? You can meet people in the strangest of places, like from supermarkets to the gym to going to an exercise class, going to a cinema. You can have an opportunity to meet people at any particular time. If you don't gel with the person, so be it. You don't have to think, I have to go today now, meet a fella. God, I need someone in my life. You're not going to get it like that. But there's all the huge elements of meeting people through normal discourse, where you might go. Now, you see, for women, I think, Fran, and this is probably a bit controversial, I don't think women are cool about going into a pub on their own.
No, they're not.
And I wouldn't be cool going into a pub on my own.
Yeah, and I can understand it too.
Yeah. Because you're thinking, Jeannie.
Yeah, if I sit up at a bar,
there's a woman up there
own,
sitting up having a pint. Isn't that very strange? I wonder where's her partner? As if she should have a partner. Could be that she lives next door and she came in to have a pint.
Yeah.
But it's not really that accepted. People would just kind of look at you and think, God, that's odd, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah.
Or she's taken up a space there at the counter that's 2 seats and another person can't sit there.
Is it possible that I'm reading too much? Is there an element of depression there? When somebody begins to question everything about their lives?
I would say overwhelmed, a bit of depression, could need a bit of counselling, could maybe need to go and have a chat with the doctor if she's continuously feeling that she's in a loop where she's getting no satisfaction from her life. It does sound like she could have depression, and depression is very easily sorted, but you have to action that sorting. You have to go and talk to somebody. Yeah. You have to go and talk to your practice nurse or your GP, or there's advanced nurse practitioners everywhere now, and they're fantastic. They can do prescribing and everything for you. So it's not as if we're kind of stuck in a role. It's just it's one of those things.
Some reaction to some of the letters. One person saying, "Oh my God, she's a complete," and they use the word that rhymes with which, over the ring. Just go away, it says here. That's one person's reaction. Somebody else saying, just maybe you can help me with this. She could wear it as costume jewellery, dressy times, and go together and buy another engagement ring.
Well, you see, why would you do that? You can get rings changed very easily, because sometimes rings do not suit the finger, and then sometimes the finger expands, Fran, and you have to get an insert put into it. Or it could have the other way, where you have to get the band put in because your fingers are gone too small. Wouldn't that be great if that happened to us all? But look, It's an issue. I think if the ring is very loud and ostentatious, she's going to look for a way of modifying that ring so it's not as in your face. And oftentimes as well, if you have a ring that's quite big like that, depends on your job.
Yeah.
If you're working, you're not going to be wanting a big, massive ring just glittering and doing all sorts of things and catching maybe and loosening the diamonds or anything like that. Fran, you wouldn't know anything about it, love.
Not in the least would I know about it. But I do kind of feel sorry for him because he did his best and he thought he was doing right.
Well, he thought, but again, he'll know by in future that if there's going to be decisions made that will affect his life and his future wife, it's always better to have a conversation and to have a discussion beforehand so that you don't have
You're
this
trying to put
upset.
that nicely. What you really mean there is he needs permission.
Well, just kind of, and maybe perhaps direction, and perhaps to go
As
to
well.
a different tray and say, "Will we look at these rings? Aren't they a little bit more neat or less likely to catch in your jumper and rip you asunder?"
Phil, the pleasure as always. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. We're back with more.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Brian was on to us. He says, in reply to that person, satisfaction and happiness come from within. More material things can't give you that. I live frugally and very much enjoying my life and enjoy the challenges of the struggle. Be grateful for what you have and not jealous of what other people have because many of them are not happy, says Brian on 083 311 3311. Now, to mark World Hearing Day, Hidden Hearing is shining a light on the powerful connection between healthy hearing and being truly present indeed for the young people in your life. I'm joined now by Sarah Sheehan, who is the chief audiologist with Hidden Hearing. Good morning to Sarah.
Morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm very well. Lovely to talk to you today. Hearing loss, first of all, to begin with that, Sarah, I mean, it can create a barrier for our loved ones and to our loved ones, can't it?
It absolutely can. And I suppose this morning today is a very special day, Fran, because every year on the 3rd of March, the World Health Organization marks World Hearing Day as an international initiative that's dedicated to raising awareness of hearing health and reminding people that hearing is a key part of overall well-being. And this year, their theme is highlighting the importance of supporting children's hearing. So whilst at Hidden Hearing, we do predominantly look after adults, it's a great reminder for parents and grandparents, teachers, to stay alert and look for early signs and symptoms of hearing difficulties in children so that we know that we can act promptly if we feel that something isn't quite right.
And would you recommend a hearing test? I mean, even if there aren't symptoms that are very obvious there, should the test be had anyway, do you think, Sarah?
100%, yeah, definitely. Look, for adults, World Hearing Day is a great reminder as well that we should look after our own hearing and normalise hearing health checks on our agenda, even if you're not noticing changes, but maybe you just want peace of mind, or maybe you're concerned about a parent, a partner. It's about actioning our awareness and leading by example. So I would definitely say it's never too early to get it checked.
And as I said at the very start then, that barrier that can be created between ourselves and the people sharing our lives then, because we can't hear, I mean, that's considerable, isn't it?
It is very considerable. I suppose, hearing loss has often been described as an invisible disability, so very often we don't notice the symptoms. We always blame it on it was too loud, or that person muffles, they don't talk clearly. So for that reason alone, because you can't actually physically see it, having it measured and having that baseline is all the more important, because it can cause crazy rifts at home where people think that you don't care because you've misheard them, or that you're asking them to repeat themselves all the time, or maybe you don't respond at all because you haven't heard them.
And the kind of signs and symptoms you'd be looking out for, I guess the television and the radio would be one to look out for. I mean, if you find that you need that to be louder and louder all of the time.
Yeah, so I think early signs of hearing loss can be if I'm turning up the TV radio, you're quite right, asking people to repeat themselves. You're not quite catching the end of the word, you're trying to fill in the gaps yourself. When you're struggling in restaurants or busy family gatherings, that's a really, really good one or you're avoiding those because you find them uncomfortable. Feeling exhausted after a conversation, Fran, I can actually relate to that one myself. It's starting to happen. So missing doorbells, phone calls, family members or a friend might comment on your hearing, and you might, sometimes it goes over our head, but maybe that's the time. Maybe I should action that and have it checked.
Yeah, and I'm beginning to feel a little vulnerable here myself now, because what I've been whinging about in recent times is not really about volume, but it's about clarity when I'm listening to the television. And I'm asking other people, do you find that clear, that dialogue? Because I don't often.
Yeah, that's classic, because our hearing, I think very often people think that we lose volume, Fran, and we don't actually. In acquired hearing loss, just through wear and tear in life, that's the first thing that can go is our clarity, our ability to distinguish between one sound and another. So did I say shoes or choose? Did I say it was funny or sunny? It's things like that, and you're not just, one word can change the whole context of a conversation as well. So I'm sure many people will have found themselves in that situation where they've misheard, and sometimes it leads to a laugh, but sometimes it can actually be a little bit concerning or embarrassing.
And Sarah, have you seen people's lives turned around because all of a sudden, once again, they can engage?
Technology now is absolutely amazing, but so is the hearing assessment. So, like, having a look, it's actually quite engaging and really empowering to go and have a look and know that, okay, the structure is physically, my ears, everything is in good nick, or do I need to be made aware of something? Is there a medical intervention? If for anybody that has a hearing difficulty, the technology now is next to none. It's can be as discreet as you want it to be. It's very smart, because now we run on, all our technology will run with AI. So the sound processing is really, it's never been as close to the natural hearing experience. And it also, technology has hugely advanced as well, Fran, in a sense that your hearing loss can adapt to you and your lifestyle needs, as opposed to you adapting to your hearing loss. So if you want to stream calls, or you like to watch movies, or you like to listen to music, the capabilities are quite extensive now.
Do you mean like a Bluetooth situation that we might be familiar with? Is that what you mean?
I do. So, and especially actually, even up and coming, we further advanced again with something that's oncoming is Auracast. And it's almost like the next level of Bluetooth, and it really is technology that is really working hard to keep our world connected. So
and I often thought over the because my poor father, my late father, he had very profound hearing issues over the years, and we went the whole gamut from the big thing on the front of his shirt and his whistling constantly to more discreet. But I notice now it's gone really discreet. I mean, you wouldn't know sometimes that people are wearing this technology.
Absolutely, and the developments are so advanced. Hearing devices now, like, I know we had Oregon Zeal launch, and we welcomed that this year. It's much more comfortable. It's really easy to use. It's discreet. It's intuitive. The solutions today are really designed with lifestyle needs in mind. So we really have jumped ahead, and that really helps to reduce the stigma and anxiety that people can sometimes feel about using technology.
Well, it's wonderful, and I'm sure it makes all the difference to people. You have outlets in Tipperary, haven't you, Sarah?
We absolutely do. We have Cashel, we have Clonmel, we have Nina, so we're always in close reach.
Right, and you can just have a consultation, can you, without an obligation, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we actually start off our hearing assessments, a 7-step hearing assessment, and that they're free as part of our hearing wellness program, Fran. And then after that, that's all about gathering your information, getting a baseline. The outcome is either, great news, you're within a normal hearing range.
Yeah.
If there's further assessments required, you'll be advised, or if it's straightforward, next steps to action, whether it's seeing, sometimes it's very simple, like a wax removal, or maybe do we require any medical interventions? But yes, initially that wellness, we do have those free hearing tests, and as I said, we're within easy reach.
Very good. I think there's a general 1800 phone number, isn't there, that people can use?
We do. So that's 1800 844 454. So 1800 844 454.
All right. Great to talk to you, Sarah. Most interesting. Thank you for your time today. Thank you. Good morning to you.
And thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Sarah Sheehan there, who's Chief Audiologist with Hidden Hearing, because today is World Hearing Day. 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Families Unite for Services and Support Ireland released a statement this week calling for an independent review of the NCSE, and that's the National Council for Special Education, data collection methods and the overall special class planning process. Now, to avoid a situation like last year where many children were left without suitable school places. And Edwina McElhinney from FUS joins me now. Good morning to you, Edwina.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. That statement that just has been released, it seems to me that there's a lack of belief in what the NCSE is doing, and indeed what the government is doing, Edwina.
Yeah, I suppose it's just the latest in a long list of failures by our government in order to provide the basic rights to education and access to health services.
And your fear is that we will be in the very same situation next September as we were last year, that there's just not places available for children.
No, it's hard to believe, Fran, that things have actually gotten worse than they have done. Every year, there's a scramble for special class places, and I suppose I just kind of want to make the point as well that these aren't always autism classes. A lot of focus is put on autism classes and in the general media, and it isn't always autism classes. These are special school places as well. But the way that, as it currently stands, 400 classes were budgeted for this September. That's what the government has planned, for 400. The problem is that we need 600, and there is no funding available.
Right.
So we have a situation where upwards of 800 children will be left without a school place this September due to a failure in planning.
Yeah, but is that being grasped by the powers that be? Do you remember last year, Minister Moynihan, he said that the NCSE advised that a small number of special class places remain in most counties for those still seeking a placement. So basically, as we're saying, nothing to see here. There isn't a problem.
Yeah, time and time again throughout the whole of last year, the relevant government ministers were brought into Oireachtas committees. It was spoken about in the Dáil. Time and time again, question after question went in about the number of applications received by the NCSE, how many children were using the Notify portal, what would happen to the children who did not make the deadline. There was 2 deadlines last year. One was in February and one was in October gone. So what happened last year is that the children who did not meet the February deadline, over 200 of those children did not get a school place in September. As of it stands, they do not have an appropriate school place. They may be in an appropriate mainstream class, or they may be receiving home tuition. And, you know, we have those children that already don't have a class place. And then you have the thousands of children that are looking for a class place, you know, this year. Do you know, that kind of way? So they're already failing the children that applied last year, and they're going to fail very, very badly for this September.
And in terms of the data collection methods, how the data is collected, what are the main issues around that, Edwina?
One, the secrecy.
Secrecy?
The secrecy. Several times we've had, as my colleague Rachel Martin would be part of the the Equality in Education group, and they would have had several meetings with the ministers for disability and special education last year in the course of trying to get the 260 odd children at that time, trying to get them a school place for last September. And throughout discussions, it was discovered and admitted that the NCSE do not collect data on the amount of children that have an inappropriate school place. So children that should be in an autism class are in a special school place. The NCSE do not collect that data. So how can you plan for the children you have, never mind the ones that are coming online, if you don't have that data? They don't collect it.
But I mean, that's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense, Bren. It doesn't. It's beyond, you know, and I suppose, like, for whatever reason, you know, I think that whether it's all handwritten data, whether none of it's computerized, whether it's the attitude of they're already in a place, so it doesn't matter that the place is inappropriate. If they get, you know, that sure they'll be fine, kind of. Once they're gone off the list, basically off a CNO's list, and saying, well, that child has a place. It doesn't matter that it's inappropriate or doesn't meet their educational needs. It doesn't matter. They have a place, and they're so focused on looking after the children that have no place that they forget about the ones that are in an appropriate place.
And is this a case of that it's incompetence, or is it trying to manipulate the figures that they don't look as bad in some fashion?
It's very hard to know, Fran. It is beyond belief that this is still going on in 2026. It's very hard to think that we're still dealing with this. And what is incredibly alarming at the moment, to add all of this, is that the Department of Education will be preparing their submission for the budget this October. So, you know, considering the hames they have made of the last one, where they didn't plan for enough SNAs, they didn't plan for enough school classes to provide the classes, so they didn't budget for it. And they're currently in the middle of preparing their budget submission, which kind of, you know, happens around the summer, that they have their conversations about how much we're going to need and whatever. So, you know, it's like they're fighting fires on two ends. They haven't sorted out last year's mess. They haven't sorted out this year's, and they're trying to plan for next year.
I think it just beggars belief, and of course the recent U-turn on the whole debacle around the SNAs as well. I mean, I can't get over that either. It didn't get through cabinet before letters being sent out to people about SNA allocation.
Yeah, no, I think one fact I think that's kind of slipped under the radar is that this was all planned early last year. The Department of Education submitted their budget submission, which would happen, you know, kind of over the summer. That they planned on making 500 cuts. So their budget submission was based on the fact that 500 jobs would be cut. So, this was in the plan for the guts of about 9-10 months.
So for the government to come out and say that they weren't aware about these cuts, or this hadn't been signed off by Cabinet, are you saying that was... How do you view that?
No, I believe that it wasn't signed off by Cabinet, because it is every department
but you're saying they knew
for their own budget.
But you're saying they knew.
That kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, they knew. Of course, they knew. It was admitted in the Oireachtas Committee last Thursday by the Department of Education officials. It's all there. I mean, if you look at the Oireachtas TV videos, it's all there. It was admitted that it, as part of their budget submission, that it was based on the fact that 500 jobs would be cut. So, that has blown up in their face.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah.
The attitude that it was a communications error. There's nobody taking responsibility for this and saying, look, we made a mistake. We didn't value, the role of an SNA and what they do every day, to help children with learning difficulties. We're sorry, and we will make sure that every child does have the support that they need in order to access their constitutional right to an education, because it is in our constitution that every child has an equal access to an education. So, I mean, there's no one person put up their hand and said, I'm sorry, we made a mistake, we didn't value, and we're not going to do this again, because they can't make that promise.
All right, but inevitably, next September, from a classes point of view, we are going to see the same, if not worse, as we saw last year. Yeah.
Currently, as it stands, they do not have funding for 200 classes. As it stands, they do not have funding.
Yeah.
We need 600. 400 have been funded, and only 351 have been announced so far.
All right, Edwina, we'll continue to follow the story, but I can't imagine how families are feeling out there at the moment about
Fran,
this.
if you don't mind,
sure.
I just want to mention that if anybody is struggling to get a school place at the moment, can they please contact us at FUS Ireland, or they can email myself at tipperaryfuss@gmail.com. We will be doing a webinar on this to inform people of their rights and their options in regards to this. So last year that we had a WhatsApp group going of parents, so that I suppose in a lot of these cases you're isolated, you might be the only one in your community or that. So, if we have a number of parents together, there's solidarity and there's strength in numbers. It worked quite well for them people last year. So I just feel that if anyone is struggling to get a school place at the moment, then please get in touch with us. We will be doing a webinar on this in the next couple of weeks. We're just waiting for the details to be finalised today, actually, I think.
All right. Edwina, look after yourself, and thank you for coming on with us. Thank you.
Thanks
Good morning.
very much, Fran. Take
Good
care
morning
now.
to you. Edwina McElhinney there from Families Unite for Services and Support. And Leanne is with me. Morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
The archives. Now, we've been speaking about Templemore Garda Station quite a lot recently. You found a piece, an interesting one, though.
Oh, yeah, it ties in perfectly. So we're going to October 1988, and it's the first stage in providing a National Police College at the training centre in Templemore.
The first building to go was the old military hospital at the rear. Derelict for years, it was an unsightly reminder that the Templemore complex goes back to the first decade of the last century, when it was built as a British military barracks. The block beside it will be next to go. Vacated only 2 weeks ago, it reeks of rising damp and dry rot, and, like the other blocks earmarked for demolition, is considered a fire hazard. Local conservationists have accused the Office of Public Works of vandalism. The main front section will be preserved, but so they say should the wing on the left. However, the Army, which have occupied that wing for years, have now moved out and transferred to prefabs in another part of the complex to make way for demolition and eventual rebuilding.
Very balanced judgments had to be taken here. On the one hand, you had to look at the historical or the social or cultural significance of the buildings we're talking about. On the other hand, you have to look at the condition of the buildings and the cost that would be involved in refurbishing them. Now, we have got the best advice available from structural engineers, from architects, from the quantity surveyors, and all these people have advised that refurbishing was not on in the case of some of the buildings. It wouldn't make sense at all, and certainly it wouldn't make economic sense.
Under the new plans, all classes will be held in a modern education block that will include a library and lecture theatre. The plans also include a new sports and recreation centre. However, a priority will be to replace the old dormitory-style accommodation with 3 new wings providing over 400 single study bedrooms. £5 million has been set aside so that building can begin next year. The structural improvements planned here at Templemore, while extensive and costly, are only part of a long-term programme to turn the training centre into a proper police college for all levels of the force.
The new college that we have now planned and which we're, by the way, implementing, will have 5 schools. It will have 1 dedicated to student probation or training, 1 for sergeants and inspector training, 1 for specialist training, 1 for in-service training, and 1 for management training.
The government has now approved a coat of arms for the college. The motto, security in knowledge.
It's fascinating to listen to it in light of the conversations that we've been having, isn't it, Leanne?
I know, there's such high hopes. Everything that was going to be in there, and now I pass it every single evening. So we're just used to it there now as well.
Absolutely. But it is amazing to pass it when you see how full the car parks are there. Absolutely jammed.
Packed. And when I'm driving and I leave very, very early, it's packed. It's packed at that hour.
Mornings, yeah.
It's always packed and the lights are on and you can see into the building that there's people working away.
Wow, isn't it amazing? Well, thanks for delving into the archives. You have lots more for us, don't you?
Oh, I have lots more. Don't worry, Fran. I've over 400 compiled at this stage.
Wow, okay, I love it. Thanks, Leanne. Leanne produced Stephen Has the Time Tunnel on the lunchtime show. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.